Welcome to the Liberty Without Compromise live stream broadcast. We are the only live, local, liberty-minded program right here in Kootenai County. We're your hosts, Dan and Dawna Wilson. I'm here to screen your questions and comments tonight. You can participate in the program right there in the comments section on whichever platform you're watching. If you're joining us on Facebook, YouTube, X, or Instagram. And then also, for those of you watching us live tonight, not the replay, but live tonight here at 7 o'clock on Wednesday, make sure to share this live stream to your page or profile. If you're listening back on our podcast, be sure to catch us live every Wednesday night. And a reminder, opinions expressed are ours only and not necessarily that of any of our advertisers, sponsors, affiliates, or guests. On tonight's Liberty Without Compromise broadcast, we are going to depart from our originally planned program, and we'll pick up with that next week. In light of today's tragic and unsettling events, we're taking this time to reflect, to offer comfort, and to stand together with our community. And you know, when you stand for truth, when you choose to be bold and righteous, evil will always seek to silence you. The forces of darkness will try to intimidate, to threaten, and to snuff out what can't be controlled. Tonight, we refuse to let fear have the final word. Please join us as throughout this program we reflect and bring hope in the face of terror. And now here's your host, Dan Wilson.
Episode 36, When Evil Men Wish You Were Dead. Dawna said we're going to depart from our normal banter. We're going to remember a little bit about Charlie Kirk, of course, a heinous assassination, the murder that took place as of the time of this recording. It does not appear that they have apprehended those responsible for the murder. We're not here to capitalize on that. We're here, obviously, with you in shock and disbelief. Our hearts go out to not only the Kirk family, but Turning Point USA and so many others who have been affected by this. Now, I think it's appropriate before we start that we go ahead and give a couple seconds of silence. Join with me, please. These are the times that try men's souls. As Dawna said, when you are attempting to speak the truth, when you make it your life goal, there are all sorts of risks and hazards that come with that, but rarely do we ever believe that it will end up in an assassination. Now, last year, 2 attempts on President Trump's life, and those were shocking. He got back up. I think we tend to minimize those things after a while. But watching the video today, which I wish I had not watched, pretty horrific. And it reminds us that we do live in a great country that is safe, but we also live in a fallen world where evilness is still around us. It is continually looking to seek and devour those which evil can destroy. Such has been the plight of the American history throughout the ages. Assassinations are heinous, especially when it's right here in the United States. But as Americans, we are not strangers to assassination. Many of our beloved political representatives over the years have faced assassination or attempts. And we forget that. We forget that there is a cost to liberty. We forget that we live every single day not knowing what tomorrow will bring. But those of us who believe in liberty, like you do, you don't live in fear. You continue to boldly speak the truth. Sometimes it costs you a little socially. Sometimes it costs you your life. I'd like to hear from you tonight. If you are watching and you have comments about this, we're going to talk a little bit about why we're here. Why are we talking today about the death of a 31-year-old man, husband, father of two, who really, from everything that I can tell, and I've watched him for the past 5 years, never hurt anybody. He was glad to debate anybody he could, and he was a pretty decent debater, far greater than anything that I could do. But I never saw him be mean. He could hold his own with some of the bigger pundits. So why is somebody like Charlie, why was he killed? Why was he murdered? We don't know. I mean, we're speculating right now. But I think it is safe to say he was murdered by somebody that didn't like what he said or what he stood for. We have been conditioned in this country for many, many years, and it's getting more and more prevalent. We're getting conditioned by social media. We're getting conditioned by the talking points that are given to us, both the right and the left, Democrat, Republican, independents. And if you don't have good roots, if you don't have a good foundation, you will succumb to the conditioning no matter what side it is on, whether it is the radical, violent left or the equally radical right. Conditioning. When was the last time you went online on social media? And we all get the algorithms that feeds us constantly those things that we devour on a regular basis. It doesn't give us alternative views. And while we have been watching in real time for the past 5 years, the destruction, and it's been longer, but especially the past 5 years, the destruction of the common middle-class American family. And we see these things going on. We have radicalization not only on the left, whatever that means these days, by those that don't believe in God, that don't believe in any kind of moral standard. But it can also happen on the right side by kill those that are protesting in our streets that we don't like because we can't stand them.
I want to talk about that a little bit further because it might have been you sandwiching a couple of thoughts together, but there's the issue of morality and those who don't believe in God or don't have a biblical worldview. And what I want to be careful with is that we're not automatically assigning that to the left. I think that has traditionally been a definition, but the thing that I'm seeing unfolding in front of us the last 5 years, like you said, especially the last couple of years here in Kootenai County, as I've been more politically plugged in because I've spent the majority of my life making sure I go to vote. You know, I'm a good person and moral because I go to vote, and I vote a certain way, somebody with a certain letter behind their name who's running for office. But it has become more clear to me as we've seen even the antics going on here in our county that I can't even call this an issue of left or right anymore. And I want to get a little bit further into that because we had a comment on social media just when we were talking about the program coming up tonight and that we were changing direction, and the title of the program being When Evil Men Wish You Were Dead.
Yeah.
And just that statement, that title invoked anger in somebody who wanted to comment on that. And I think it's a valid comment. I want to be able to address it because it's part of, I think what's open for the discussion here is that I can't call this left or right anymore. I can't call this Republican or Democrat. But I was immediately seeing registered Republicans online doing the name calling and automatically assigning the events of today to leftards or, whatever the schoolyard names are that we're hurling at each other lately, which serves no purpose. And I know you're going to dig deeper into, in reality, what this is, not a left or right versus issue. And I'm going to leave that for you. But the comment today from Lisa Reeder, and I actually do appreciate the stopping by our page and engaging in comment and discussion. And I think that is in fact something that's reflective of a mission and a vision that Charlie Kirk had and what was driving him, that the discussion is what is important in order to keep the civil society. But Lisa's comment was, your implication, again, the title of the program, When Evil Men Wish You Were Dead. So the comment was to that. Your implication is frankly concerning. Last I checked, we don't know who did this or why. Your rhetoric implies that he was killed for his right-wing positions. We don't know that. Your rhetoric implies that people who disagreed with him did this. We don't know that. And we know that liberals disagreed with him. Therefore, your rhetoric is attempting to point a finger. She continues on. I don't want this to be about a local issue here. But she would just hate to see you doing that, which other people have done, and it's got them in trouble, and encourages, hey, stick to the facts. I mean, really, Lisa Reeder, in that comment, you're talking to both Dan and I, because we are very much co-host the program and we collaborate on what the message is. So none of us neither of us is doing that without the other. But she's encouraging us to stick to the facts. That is what a law enforcement person should do. I think, Lisa,
you're out of line. Number one, Dawna and I were very specific today, purposeful, when we were changing the direction to not do what everybody else is doing. Because frankly, I didn't know the guy. I didn't follow him to the degree that some did. And I'm not going to feign any kind of expertise. What I can identify is that a man was murdered today in cold blood. And maybe you've got some kind of issue going on where you can't see clearly. So maybe let me help you. When a title slide comes out and it says, when evil men wish you were dead. If you murder somebody, you are evil, period. Full stop. And I would argue that it is you that are trying to make an issue where there isn't one. But it comes back down to this conditioning. We see it all the time. I have to continually push myself to not react immediately and say, don't suppose, but understand what the truth is. We've already said tonight, have no idea anything about what's going on.
Yep.
But we do know that on the left and on the right,
both sides,
there has been radicalization that has taken place. And why is this? Well, I think I'm going to go to a John Adams quote. John Adams, one of our founders, principled man, Christian, president. He says this, and I want you to pay very close attention because I think this quote is very, very apropos to this discussion. We have no government armed with power capable of contending with human passions unbridled by morality and religion. Avarice, ambition, revenge, or gallantry would break the strongest cords of our Constitution as a whale goes through a net. Our Constitution is designed only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate for any other. Mm. Now, look, I'm not going to get into any theology here because I do believe that there are people that don't necessarily have a belief in a supreme creator that still believe in traditional morals.
Yeah.
That were influenced by Judeo-Christians. Mm-hmm. John Adams was very smart. The founders, if you read them, if you read Aristotle, if you read Plato, all of the great philosophers, they understood human nature. That is why you have a government. That is why you have a Bill of Rights, because of human nature and what it eventually resorts to: selfishness, greed, corruption. And Adams is clearly identifying, look, and it's, as I have said before, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, all of that is just paper parchment barriers without those that will uphold it. And how does this relate to what we're talking about today? We have a massive cultural problem here in America. You have two worldviews. I'm going to simplify. There's many more, but I'm going to simplify. Those that believe in a creator that created everything and puts the rules down and says, man, these are my rules. These are the laws of nature. Obey them. And those that have no belief. Now, everybody does have a belief, even those that claim that they don't. They have strongly held beliefs that are likened to religion. Mm-hmm. But if you have a subjective worldview, which is you were created out of nothing and just happen to be, and you will no longer be once you are no longer breathing, then of course you are going to look at the world completely different. And as man continually slides in his morals right here in the country, we are a post-Christian nation. You are going to see these clashes more and more all of the time. When we were kids, presidential races were dignified for the most part. Democrat, Republican, swaying back and forth. You know,
debates were honorable. People had decorum.
But we have seen radicalization that has taken place because, again, we are a post-Christian nation. That's hard for a lot of you on the right to understand this, but also understand that the founders, Washington was talking with Madison right after the Revolutionary War was over and the states were operating under the Articles of Confederation, and they saw those in the legislature that were abusing people again. It's human nature. It's human nature to revert to doing bad things. And while we have to continually, if we call ourselves Christians, and I do, if you can't hold the basic line of decency and right and wrong and keep yourself from doing things that you shouldn't, not just because there's a law, but because it is the proper human thing to do. It's kind of like people that don't put their damn carts back. Pretty much, I think you're a shitty individual if you can't even take your grocery cart and push it back. But I see people that will go out and grab grocery carts and push them back inside or put them in the container. That's self-governance, not throwing your trash out, cleaning things up. So you have people that have no real understanding of any of the basics. There's people that call themselves Christians today that don't even understand the basics of the Bible. We talked with somebody Saturday night that wants to talk about the Bible but doesn't really understand the Bible. Mm-hmm. And so when you have people that have no belief in any supreme being that makes the rules, it's all fair game. And you start to begin to look at people as not as God's creation, but as merely vessels, inanimate objects almost.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it'll be interesting to see who was responsible for this and why they did it. There's not a good answer, but we're going to see this more and more, folks, because the worldview clashes are so great.
The other thought that I would add to that, there's a video game terminology called NPC. Well, they're just an NPC. That is non-playable character.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that we're seeing a clash in is that more of us, and Dan and I are not immune, live in this false sense that we are all the main character in our own story. And our world is more open and more prone to violence, some in subtle ways, and then something we witnessed today in the greatest of senses, open to violence, because as Dan was saying, you start to view human beings, I'd take the vessel as, empty vessel or shell, but as non-playable characters in your story where you're the main character, and that what you surround yourself with, your vision, your perspective, your opinion, that circumvents everything else.
But back to the conditioning. So if you're going to watch social media videos that continually reinforce that everything around you is bad, that everybody is attempting to kill you, everybody, and look, there is truth to some of this, right? I mean, during one of the recent marches, people were saying, we need to kill these people. We need to kill these bastards. We need to be physically violent with them. And the last I checked, the people that they're saying that about are law-abiding Americans. They just don't like what they're doing.
Right.
The radicalization on the left is, and I'm using the term again just because it's so habitual, the radicalization of those that do not believe in the Bill of Rights and the Constitution.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Those that don't, I don't know what else you call it. If you are anti-Bill of Rights, I think it's very appropriate to say you are a communist. You're a Marxist. I mean, communism is the opposite of Christianity. We didn't get here in just a few short years, although it has accelerated greatly. And I believe that you're going to see more and more of these events take place. And they're going to take place not only because people find it appropriate to do it, and they are willing to be martyrs. You have a lot of mentally ill people now, but you also have the fear factor. The fear factor meaning that how much fear did those of you that watch today, if you're being honest, how much fear did you allow in when you're watching this guy murdered in 4D? I don't want to go to any events anymore. I want to be out there with my family. These are thoughts that go through people's heads.
You don't want to take leadership roles that are going to put you literally in the line of sight. And then we wonder why don't we have people step up? Because if you do and you stand for something, again, this has nothing to do with saying what the motive was, what precipitated it, who it was. That's not what we're talking about. But certainly the murder of an individual who was in the line of sight because he had become the national figure that he was, that was standing for what he believed in, and spreading that message.
He was spreading one of I think, liberty. Again, I can't, I've just heard sound bites. I hear him occasionally on an interview. But I mean, look at the girl that was murdered on the train. I mean, these are indications, folks, that, like I've been telling you, those of you want to argue, I mean, there's some of you that truly believe that you're creating a place here on earth 250 years from now, as I heard a recent local political pastor say, hey, we're going to take dominion and, man, we're going to usher in the kingdom of Christ back again. It's not my theology, brother. I agree. We all need a lot of Jesus, but we need the real Jesus and not big church Jesus.
Well, how much is that a part of the issue? Because who knows who that truly is and has that relationship? Because it has turned into something completely different for people who show up on a Sunday in mass quantity and sing songs together, and pastors who are, I guarantee you, more and more writing messages with ChatGPT, buying sermons online, because keeping up with that demand in multiple services every single week and having to perform with hardly a breath in between, it can become nothing but that. And the massive quantities of money that it takes to then keep these businesses, the religion businesses, afloat. And the same people then that are, I've checked that box and I'm putting scriptures in the header on my Facebook profile. And look at me, look whose church I'm a part of, and I'm on their advisory committee. Check, check, check. But who is Jesus when we're talking about that? I'm not asking you to answer that question. Just some things to think about.
There's a reason that we talk about this quite often. The reason that we're here right now, I'm going to rest solely on the shoulders of the church. I don't care what anybody else has to say. You can say it, but you're not going to convince me otherwise. The churches failed because they started teaching a false gospel. They taught a gospel of do's and don'ts and legalism and sissifying the word, making those figures in our Bibles look more like docile men controlling people. And now you're reaping the rewards of it. But hey, man, you got the 4 spiritual laws, right? And you got the 5-day clubs and the good news clubs. And I mean, all that great stuff that, we missions conferences, send people all over the world. You can't even fix what's right here. I mean, 90 something churches right here in Kootenai County. The last I checked, we're every bit. I mean, look, we're North Idaho. We're not Southern California. I get it regionally. But if you want to fix this cultural problem, it's going to have to start with the churches. It's going to have to change minds and transform them to believing that man is worth something because he had a creator that made him, and that all men are created equal in worth. And because you have a savior that actually came and sacrificed his life for you, and you live in obedience by obeying his word, that life so shines among men. It's like Adam said, morally righteous people. There isn't any amount of restrictions that the government can do that's going to prohibit this. There's no way. I mean, Adam said it right here. There is absolutely, it's like a whale going through a net.
Right.
Government does not have the means. And we're going to talk here in just a few seconds about never let a crisis go to waste when it comes to the surveillance state. We've been talking about what true liberty is.
And before you switch topics, I do want to remind those of you who've joined us since the beginning, we had a program planned for this week that we just put off to the side, considering the events of today. And so we're somewhat Dan always works diligently. We both do, but I really have to give majority credit where it's due in terms of research and preparation. And so these are things that really are coming from the heart and soul communication, because what we had planned and prepared for today, we just knew it was appropriate to set that aside. But you're here with us live, so go ahead and share this feed to your page or profile as we continue in this conversation. And then also you can join us right there in the comment section on whichever platform you're watching.
People are murdered every single day. I think, though, that when when people are murdered in the capacity that we saw today, number one, it does hit you emotionally. I mean, I felt drained after listening about it, because it's just like it's a huge punch to the gut on so many fronts. Not the least of which is a young man with a family was murdered, and his kids now will forever have to deal with these videos, these images that were captured. But the fact is that it was done at a school, an event, place again that we're supposed to feel somewhat secure. And it was done over political speech, maybe. I mean, that's the assumption. Again, Lisa,
that would
assumption.
Be speculation,
assumptions. But, we got to remember that we cannot allow these events to cause us to fear and to give up our liberty. I mean, every day you get up, you face potential danger and uncertainty, and just reminds us again how precious life really is. Human life is precious. Does it have no regard for human life? I don't understand you. I do not understand. What do you guys think? I'm seeing some responses here.
Well, I think you made a point there too, because that really takes it away from being an issue of left or right. But that is the most important point. It is anybody who has a complete and total disregard for human life, which, when you believe in an absolute and only creator, that is the most perfect thing of his creation over solar system, planets, plants, animals, all of it. And so it is, if you want to go to the most extreme form, I mean, disrespect isn't even the right word, but disregard for a creator. If you want to go to the biggest battle there ever is going to be with God, it is going to be the disregard, the absolute disregard for human life.
Created in his image. Yeah.
And we don't know. I mean, we have so much in our society now that can propel. I was hearing a story over the weekend where you had a pilot who had, again, I'm not speculating anything. I'm just saying we are dealing with so many influences coming at people that you can't even jump to a conclusion that something is because of a political leaning or belief. You can't. And the story we heard over the weekend is you had a pilot who was riding in the jump seat, and 2 days prior had decided, he was a good, clean cut, like law abiding guy, and fell prey to trying some shrooms. And he had a bad trip, so to speak. And I think 2 days later, he thought he was over it. He needed to get home, rides in the jump seat. And what does he do? Do you remember that story?
Yeah, tries opening up the emergency exit mid-flight.
Yes. So derails that flight, could cause far,
catastrophic,
catastrophic, far beyond what it was. And they were able to save that part of it. But the thing, his message after the fact is the part that I'm getting to. And it was that he was in a current state where he felt like this wasn't real. This is the life in front of me. These are people. And that's what I think brings people into that, like, I'm the main character and you're all non-playable characters. And he was literally in that state of this isn't real. And that's why, and when he had one moment, one lucid moment after the incident occurred, he's like, you need to strap me down so that I can't. And I wonder how much of that it is we're dealing with that gets people to the point where they can just disregard those kind of actions. Like it's not even real.
We're heading into extremely dangerous times, as if we haven't already been heading that way. But when you have chaos that is erupting on all fronts, it started with the rioting that took place and the burning in 2020, the lockdowns, all the way now to the murders on the subways. They were shooting near Columbine today. I think Blue Collar was saying somebody was beheaded.
Matt Kepster was sharing. There was so much going on just even today.
So we're seeing these things over, all over the place. But the thing is when you see this chaos in the United States specifically, be very careful, because we all love law and order. But when you purposely allow chaos to ensue, and then the rest of us get caught up because we're still taking care of our families and, going to our jobs and taking care of our families, you start seeing more and more breakdown and violence and uncertainty. Be very careful when that savior, that dictator that says, you know what, I'm the man of law and order. I'm going to put a stop to this. I'm going to stop it all. Just give me your full support. Let me do what I got to do just for a while. Everything will be back to order. We'll all go back on our own merry ways. Be very, very careful. It was told to me years ago by John Loeffler on his show Steel on Steel that came out of Kootenai County. The pendulum swings harder each way. And we're right now in those very hard swinging pendulum cycles. But don't give in. Do not give up your dangerous liberty, which means, you very well could be killed doing something that you love.
Well, I think that was our discussion of today, is how much more of this can most people handle, even those who say they're liberty loving, freedom loving, I will take a risk for personal liberty. I will take on the risk for personal liberty. But how close are we really at that point when, like you were stating before, what events am I avoiding? What schools am I saying, in that location and that sort of campus or any school campus in general, I'm not sending my kid. What are we going to start avoiding? Parades and gatherings,
some of us do that
certainly
already.
Anything. And some of us are already there because of what.
Well, we've done that for years.
True. But then you have political gatherings then that are still, obviously you've got young people that want to hear and are inspired by that message. And how much more of that can they take? Even those who say, I'll take the risk. Are we at that tipping point where they're going to say, we have got to do something to bring in,
you know what it's called?
To bring in more, because I need to be safe.
And you're not going to like what I'm going to tell you guys here, especially those of you locally. Far too many of you are really good social media warriors. You're really good at, talking about the problems. Very few of you have I observed have actually gone out and physically done something. And I'm not talking about violence.
Oh, let's
just to be clear.
Yeah.
I'm talking about actually get out of your comfort zone, get your foot on the line and go, giddy up and go.
What are some, like a couple of examples?
Running for office, actually showing up to town halls to truly tell your elected officials how you think things are going. Writing letters, showing up. I mean, so many of you guys, you talk a good game, But having done this for a year and a half, I'm sorry, many of you guys, you're all talk.
And I had something, I actually didn't get a chance to share this with you, so it's on the fly whenever it fits in, but I had been thinking about what are some on the heels of events like today, because there have been multiples of them, and then one that was most highlighted, the idea of what can we actively do? Because if the reaction feels like curl up in a ball, further isolate myself, what can we do? So I have some of those things written down. You actually hit on a couple of them. I'm not trying to go there right now, but I just thought that it was good that you were highlighting those things when you said people talk big, they comment every once in a while on some post somewhere, and the point is you're not doing anything. You're not doing anything.
You're not giving any money. You're not contending for your beliefs. You go to church, I guess.
Oh, and have an opinion.
Have an opinion, but opinions, if you don't get out there so coming back to what we were saying, how we fix part of this besides the spiritual aspect of it. You don't fix things in Kootenai County at a national level. You do it right here, and you build on that momentum. You clean your local house, and then you go from there. You branch out. That's what you do. And look, I'm saying this in love, guys. I mean, I see a lot of people that are supporters. Some of you have done sacrificial things that I'm extremely appreciative of in this cause of liberty. Even back to when I was running for office. But I see more often than not people that just run their mouths and want to bitch and moan about it. But what are you doing? Are you actually taking up advantage of Hillsdale College's Constitution 101?
I'll put a link to that in the comments.
And for crying out loud, what are you doing to educate yourself truly on the foundations of this country? I just laugh. I mean, I listen to some of the arguments by people that you're ideologues. You're not principled. You have no foundation. You run off. I mean, look, it's cool that you're passionate and you want liberty. But if you don't even understand the basics of it, shouldn't you actually do that? Get off your damn video games. And I'm saying that, grown ass men, get off your freaking video games. Put your head into a book, read, actual real books, pay $20-$30 to buy a good book from Hillsdale or from the other publications and go read them. Don't just pull up a Wikipedia or an internet page. And then go out, have conversations with people. Not saying I've arrived at any of this, but what I am saying is you're going to continue to watch the world slip away, and you're going to say, well, I had all the greatest intentions in the world, but I was too busy. You know what? My kids have school sports. Got to have family night. We got to have dinner every night, same time. Got to have that family vacation. Those are all good things. But if you think that in a constitutional republic that you elect somebody and they take care of it, you're the problem. Because part of the reason that we are in the mess, why we have Sharia law taking place in Michigan, is because nobody wanted to actually hold their representatives accountable. Nobody wants to start a recall because, that's embarrassing. It takes a lot of time and effort, and we all have our lives. Well, okay.
We live in a world where you want to outsource everything, or I hire somebody and I hired you to take problems off my hands, not to create them. And it takes too much energy. It's the same reason we have bad parents. You can shout out a bunch of don't do this, don't do that, or else. But if you don't follow through on whatever the consequence is, they're going off the rails. And it's the same thing. We elect somebody into office, and it goes both ways, because you have elected officials that say, you should give me this budget, let me do this, this, and this, because the majority of people elected me, and so they want what I want. By default, they want what I want.
I've said this again. A lot of the women in this county are more courageous than the men. There are some courageous men. I'm very fortunate to know many of you, but I got to tell you, you want to talk about limp-wristed men, bunch of them in the KCRCC. There's one guy that texts me every once in a while. He's wishy-washy. He blows with the wind. He talks a big game, talks a lot of smack, runs his mouth. All it takes is somebody to come along and challenge him just a little bit. And he's like a little puppy. He runs right back and scurries off. He's like, oh, yeah, you're right. Just kidding. I didn't really believe in liberty. You discuss me is what you do.
What do you think? What are the biggest things holding men back? I mean, or I guess excuses in their mind. Because one easy one, low-hanging one is, look, I'm busy. I got a full-time job. The ladies, just women in general, well, they've got more time for that stuff. Is that valid?
Well, I mean, we all have 24 hours in a day. We all have responsibilities, but look, there are times where as grown-ass men, and I'm talking to you if you're 18 years old and up, especially you retired guys, you all have time to do things that are important rather than what's convenient and what feels good. I mean, I'll bet you every one of these guys that says that they don't have time watches Netflix for a couple hours at night.
Yeah.
Or sports. You'll never find a person that hates sports more than me. I absolutely abhor. I abhor.
You used to like
professional sports.
I used
to like baseball,
back in the day.
But little fact about Dawna Wilson. Look, if you like it, that's great. But the amount of worship that I see with these guys knowing the stats and talking about it around the cooler about how great everything is, and your whole country actually could use the same amount of effort that you put in there. But so you're going to have to be the keeper on what you. And then I think the second,
I think the second easy low-lying excuse for men when they're excusing themselves for not getting involved politically, considering running for office, even easy stuff, showing up at a town hall and then doing anything to support another campaign. If they support that person's values who's running for office, they just won't do it. And I would say this might be the number one reason it's bad for business. Like generally speaking, I can't get politically involved. It's bad for business. So isn't that nice? Pat the women on the head. Isn't that nice that you can go do that and go hand out cards and wave signs? But me, I can't do that. That's going to be bad for business.
Yeah. I mean, it's all excuses, but look, you can either do something now, which if I'm going to be completely frank with all of you guys, that I'm always going to push for liberty, that I'm going to push us for being able to go back to kind of the way things were. But the reality of it is we are in a late stage republic. We've run our course. We've become too top heavy. And there's probably very, very small chance we're going to be able to pull out of this. I mean, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but that really is what we're looking at. So the question is, how fast do you want to slide there? Do you want to buy enough time for your children? And let's talk about these ALRs while we're in it. I'm so glad for those that have stood alongside me as I have continually battled the surveillance state. So
ALPRs, the automatic license plate readers, ALR. But I just want to make sure too, because I know we have new people joining us and we get so used to saying things over and over and over again. And I know we got people jumping in at all times, any which way. So Dan's referencing the automatic license plate readers, which have been introduced into Kootenai County, and then I'm going to let you take that. I
lost my train of thought.
Run with your topic.
I lost my train of thought.
We talked about we're in a late stage republic, and how much time, really, how fast it more a matter of how fast are we going to slide into this.
How long do you want? Do you want to buy time for your kids? Well, then guess what? Then you better get out there and you better quit believing when your law enforcement tells you that these are great tools and that they're never going to be used. I had one of my friends, apparently I haven't talked to him yet, from another agency. So if you're listening and, I attempted to get back a hold of you, but that apparently you were busy. I don't know. You guys got to separate the fact that, yes, they are tools that you can use, but it is a march. And we're going to talk about these right now. This is a march eventually that will envelop everything in your life. You will be monitored and controlled 100% of every waking moment of your life. And you don't think that for one moment that some political operative isn't going to capitalize on that, and that's game over. What are you going to do? For those of you who think that the ALPRs that were voted down the budget for the software, that's a done deal. I don't believe that's a done deal. I think that they can come back in any time and they can get these things fired back up. But
my opinion and my prediction, I don't think they're going away. They at bare minimum run through the rest of this year. I don't think they're going away.
Yeah,
I think they were introduced in the shadows. They've now been deployed and in use since early 2024, January 2024, I believe. So, and I don't think they're going away.
You're fools.
I think it was a ruse.
If you right now support it, and look, there are those of you out there that you think they're great. I've listened to you at city council meetings. You're fools. You are absolute out of your effing mind fools to think that this is somehow in the day and age of the Patriot Act and everything else that's going on, that somehow after you didn't learn your lesson during COVID at all. You didn't learn your lessons, did you? But now it's all data and it's going to help us catch the bad guys. And we've already told you over and over again, there are no studies that show any significant reduction in crime, preventing crime. We see no officer safety increase. Again, to my friends, show me the stats. But what we do know, and this is without debate, what we do know is that your data and your continual surveillance that you are under is increasing year by year, while you're too stupid as cops to go, well, yeah, it helps us do our job better, but it's never going to be abused. And I'm not going to ever back off of this. Never. I will not give in to having liberty taken away over convenience. I don't care. Now, we've been talking about Motorola, and ALPRs, the automatic license plate readers that are placed on Cooney County Sheriff's vehicles, 40 plus, running plates all over the county. We're talking a little bit about the new Senate bill that passed, and it's a confusing bill. I don't know that it actually did much of anything. But let's change now to the flock cameras. The flock cameras, my buddies in Liberty Lake run the flock cameras. They solve crimes with flock cameras. When Cooney County first started their ALPRs, they were using these stationary cameras. Flock is the new contender that is making its big name, but they're right now involved in 5 major lawsuits. Well, actually, let me restate that. 5 major scandals, at least 1 lawsuit.
Okay.
If we show up slide number 3. Flock Safety, page 1, is currently involved in 5 major controversies as of September 25, based on ongoing public scrutiny, legal challenges, and media reports. Here's what some of them are. 1, warrantless mass surveillance and Fourth Amendment violations. The Institute for Justice and the residents Lee Schmidt and Crystal Arrington against the city of Norfolk, Virginia, Norfolk Police Department, and Flock Safety. So these are those cameras they place all over the freaking counties and cities, right? So they capture images everywhere.
And these are stationary?
They're stationary.
Okay.
For the most part. The controversy centers on Norfolk's deployment of 172 Flock ALPR cameras, which create a dragnet surveillance system tracking every vehicle's movements without warrants. Critics, including the EFF and ACLU, argue it violates the Fourth Amendment by enabling prolonged tracking of individuals' locations via centralized databases Federal judge denied a motion to dismiss in February of 25 and rejected Flock's intervention attempt in May of 25, allowing the case to proceed to trial in the fall of 2025. Similar challenges have arisen in cities like San Diego and Austin, two somewhat liberal cities. I don't know how liberal San Diego is considered, but I mean, people are saying, hell no, we are done with the continual being under surveillance. All in, we're going to solve crimes. We're going to find more vehicles that are stolen. We're going to, every once in a while, catch in a dragnet a fleeing suspect. Number two, here's one. Misuse of data for abortion tracking and reproductive rights violations. In May, this is coming from Illinois and Texas. Let's see. Electronic Frontier Foundation's Texas Sheriff's Office, Johnson County, Illinois officials. May 25 reports reveal Flock data was used to track a Texas woman suspected of self-managing an abortion involving searches across 83,000 cameras nationwide, including in states like Illinois, where abortion is protected. They sparked outrage over mission creep, where public safety tools enable politically motivated surveillance. Now, I'm not going to debate the whole thing about abortion and the morality of it and all that, but understand that they used this technology to track a woman who circumvented Texas law to go to another state. So you can clap right now and go, by God, that's great, until it's you and you're going across the state line to grab ammo or a Bible or something else that's now
or some
determined
other,
to be illegal.
Life-saving medication or something.
Ivermectin, yeah.
You have to be able to put those scenarios into realizing, okay, how is that going to affect you in the future?
Kinda
because
like,
when it's capturing something that you morally say, well, that's morally wrong. So like you said, hooray. But then that is going to be used for other purposes and people who have belief systems and worldviews on all sides, on all sides.
Here's another big one. Number 3, unauthorized data sharing with federal agencies for immigration enforcement. U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, Homeland Security investigations against the Institute of Justice. I'm on page 2. Details. May of 25, 404 media reported, so that's some reporting agency, Flock's pilot program with Customs and Border Patrol and Homeland Security investigations allowed federal access to ALPR data for immigration enforcement, including human trafficking and fentanyl cases. Again, sounds cool, right? I'm for, the rule of law.
Well, got to catch the bad guys. Where have we heard that before? You got to catch the bad guys.
But Illinois, through an audit, confirmed that Customs Border Patrol accessed state data illegally, prompting Flock to pause all federal pilot programs. Critics like the Institute of Justice argue this doesn't prevent indirect access. So what they basically did is they are allowing the federal government. Folks, do you not understand how important it is to maintain your sovereignty at the county and at the state and at the federal government last? Because once again, using it for something right now that needs to take place, but unauthorized without being invited by local law enforcement to do that in violation of state law. And they're just allowing them to get in there and use it for their means. So what happens? What's the justification? The precedence is already set. Next time, don't you remember 2020, 2021? If you aren't vaccinated, if you don't take the jab, you're not going to go to work. You're not going to be allowed in society. How moronic are you guys? Number 4, cease and desist from Texas DPS for unlicensed operations. September 24, Texas DPS issued a cease and desist to Flock for operating ALPR cameras in private homes and businesses without a private investigator's license, deeming it illegal surveillance. So basically what they're doing is allowing these cameras to be operating in private homeowners associations, tracking stuff again. Here's the 5th one. Attempt to silence critics, cease and desist against anti-surveillance mapping. Pay attention to this one. Involved parties, Electronic Frontier Foundation, activist Will Freeman, and Deflock Me Project, deflock.me. We're going to show that in just a second here. February 25, Flock sent a cease and desist to deflock.me, a crowdsourced map tracking over 16,000 Flock camera locations to raise awareness of surveillance threats. So basically, they came in and they said, hey, you're violating our copyright of our name, Flock. You can't say deflock.me. We don't want you interfering with our business model, so we're going to sue you. Multi-billion companies, dollar companies, we're going to see here soon. But let's go back to this whole deal about Illinois, and we'll go to slide number 5. Evanston, is it Evanston, Indiana, or Illinois? Evanston, wherever that's at.
Sorry, that's in Illinois.
Yeah, same place. Same thing again. Slide number 5, page 1. They shut down license plate cameras, terminate contract with Flock Safety because they found out again, what are they doing? They're allowing the feds to use their camera system anytime they want, put people under surveillance. And here is the problem. They can say we have eliminated the back door for Homeland Security and Border Patrol. But here's the little thing that most of you guys don't know, and that is if you are a local law enforcement officer with access to these cameras and you happen to be working with a hybrid like the Fusion Center, so you have a dual role. You are not only a deputy or a police officer, but you might also be a special agent. You might have a Customs and Border Patrol double commission. They can use them. And the problem is we've said this over and over and over, and I'm going to continue to say it. We're not trading our damn dangerous liberty for the security that you're offering. We don't want, I don't give a shit how much this saves on being able to close cases out. The problem is the amount of data that is collecting, the dragnet, as we're going to see from Flock's founder, what he has to say about it, has to stop. We have to resist this because listen to this guy, how little he knows about our American history, how much he apparently doesn't know about the human condition, how naive he is. AI startup Flock thinks it can eliminate all crime in America. This is out of Forbes earlier this year. Page 2. With more than 80,000 AI-powered cameras across the U.S., Flock Safety has become one of the cops' go-to surveillance tools in a $7.5 billion business. Now, the CEO, Garrett Langley, has both police tech giant Axon and Chinese drone maker DJI in his sights on his way to his noble goal of preventing all crime in the United States. There's an interview with this young kid. It's pretty smart. Flock, which was valued at, they started in 2017. Flock, which was valued at $7.5 billion in its most recent funding round, has quietly built a network of more than 80,000 cameras pointed at highways, thoroughfares, and parking lots across the U.S. Now listen to this. They record not just the license plate numbers of the cars that pass them, but they're making distinctive features, broken windows, dings, bumper stickers, and Langley estimates its cameras help solve 1 million crimes a year. Soon they'll help solve even more. In August, Flock's cameras will take to the skies mounted on its own Made in America drone. So some of these real crime centers that you're seeing now, they're taking these small little drones and they're immediately deploying them the minute a 911 call comes out. And you have drone operators that are paying attention, law enforcement drone operators, and it sounds all good.
Well,
sounds good.
And I want to remind people why we're talking about this, not to, Dan, keep your train of thought if you can.
I'm going to drink a little whiskey.
Please do. Even those of us who have said, I am going to stand for freedom and personal liberty, and I understand that with that comes risk. So I am going to go out into and be in a society that is never going to be 100% safe. But here we are on the heels of devastating, horrific events of today. And I would argue that even those who say that they'll stand firm and strong for that are gonna start to get a weak stomach to say, especially when you had to see that today. And And it's then that you'll see people going, I'm not going to die on this hill. Because where that story is going is, if we've got the flock cameras, we see who's coming and going. We deploy drones over events like that. Exactly. Everybody's got ID'd, however that works. And you see everything everybody's doing, what's coming and going, what's going in and out. And that it never would have happened.
Yeah.
It's going to stop the bad guys.
Yep. Well, look, there are fools in Kootenai County that say the same thing. And you are a fool. I will say it to your face. If you believe that this kind of equipment can be trusted with law enforcement, you're a fool. Because it can't. In fact, you could look at it from the same lens of saying, well, how can Dan Wilson, who ran for sheriff and was a cop, say that about law enforcement? Because it's human nature. And by the way, the founders knew that better than anybody else when they made this thing called the Fourth Amendment. Because why? Why did they do that? Because they know the government cannot be trusted. Well, very simple.
My view on that might be a little bit different from yours, or you can challenge me, but I don't saying that law enforcement can't be trusted that's not the whole version. Well, no, it's not the whole version of the story, because this isn't about a guy or gal who's patrolling the streets, who's utilizing a tool to run
law
plates
enforcement
and
as
saying
the
that
overall organization.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But you even have people in administrative levels that have no clue what is going on with this data. Mm-hmm. So even that is not a matter of you can't trust them specifically because they're doing something nefarious.
They're implementing what will eventually become
it's still
the complete
wrong. It's still wrong, because you can't claim, well, I just didn't know. You can't come to the end of your life and say, well, I just didn't know. So the responsibility still rests on them. But I just wanted to take that argument a step further than to just say, we can't, you can't trust them.
Well, we heard that it doesn't capture images. Now, Motorola, that is most likely true in the mode that they're currently running ALPRs, but we don't even really know what mode they're running them in. Flock has absolutely no qualms of telling you we're capturing special unique identifiers with your vehicle.
Yeah, you told me that today.
And we're going to go on. Langley offers a prediction. So this Langley is the guy that founded Flock. In less than 10 years, Flock's cameras, airborne and fixed, will eradicate almost all crime in the U.S. He's convinced that American can and should be a place. Let me read that again. He's convinced that America can and should be a place where everyone feels safe. And once it's draped in a vast net of U.S.-made Flock surveillance tech, it will be.
That sounds good.
So you're going to have it up in the air. You're going to have them on all the poles. You'll go to these public events. They have the gunshot detectors. They have the metal detectors. The FLIR, all of it. I mean,
and then you'll be safe.
You'll be 100% safe until the next pandemic comes, and then they're going to be able to say, "Hey, you got to stay home."
You'll be even more trusting by that point, because certainly they have my best interest in mind, and they're telling me to stay home to be safe. You only had a certain amount of resistance the first time around, so what more is it really?
This is how naive Langley is. Langley must never have taken any Constitution 101. Langley says, "I think we can have a crime-free city and civil liberties, which can have it all." Here's the newsflash, bro. We live in a fallen, broken world. That is why we have government to try to be a little bit of a buffer between that. Collectively, we get together, right? We form these things to kind of protect our rights, being somewhat facetious here. And we understand that human nature is always going to eventually go to what is beneficial to the person at the expense of another. We call that crimes today. But human nature was understood by the founders, and they said, "Hey, everybody has personal liberty. Yeah, we're gonna do the best we can to make certain that your rights aren't violated for the most part. Crime is solved, your cases are solved, but we don't guarantee it. because you have personal liberty, you have personal responsibility, and that's part of the price of being an American. We forget the price of being an American. I'm not going to be an effing slave. I reject it. Flock is attempting to get into to become a $100 billion business. Their average plate reader camera costs between $3,000 and $3,500. And then the operating systems.
I don't know where you are.
I'm on page 6.
If you'd like. Okay, perfect.
I'm gonna stop here on this one. I mean, you can go to Forbes and look this up. It's a fascinating read. Flock's growth isn't solely fueled by its 5,000 law enforcement customers across 49 states. It hasn't installed anything in Alaska yet. Listen to this, folks. It has 1,000 corporate customers, including blue chips like FedEx, Lowe's, and Simon Property, America's largest mall owner. There are housing and homeowner associations, small businesses, schools, and organizations like the Jewish Federation of Greater Atlanta, which has installed 64 Flock cameras across different properties in the city, including a community center that has reported a recent spike in anti-Semitic threats to Dunwoody police. Here's the takeaway. All of these customers can choose to grant the police access to their camera feeds, further expanding the surveillance coverage Flock can offer law enforcement, and many do. So I hear you. Well, why are you going after law enforcement if the corporate world is doing it?
That's what I was going to say. You know where this is going next, because they say if it's already rolled out in this
because law enforcement is the only one that really has the ability to take your rights away, to temporarily suspend them, to seize you, to build their case about you. We talked about this last week, the Minority Report, or 2 weeks ago. It's the same freaking deal. Watch, all of you out there that haven't watched Minority Report in a while, watch it. Thought crimes. We're going to come and arrest you because you were thinking about something that could eventually lead to a crime. But wait until they get the digital currency. And then Jen Noel and the 15-minute city thing becomes a real probability when you're constricted to where you can or can't go, can or can't spend money.
Yeah, Jen Noel's not so crazy looking at that point. Noah's building an ark.
So we're talking about this, and I know we get scattered, I get scattered, and I'm talking about all sorts of different ends of the ALPRs. The problem is, I'm going to break it down again. Yeah. We don't want it because of the massive amount of data. Nobody can be trusted with this data. You just can't. Daniel Owsley spoke before the commissioners at the budget hearing. CrowdStrike put out one of its seminars. There was breaches in all government sectors left and right, as I recall. Your data is not safe. You can pass whatever law, Idaho, that you want to.
No.
But what are you going to do? So let's just say Acme Data Center gets hacked. What are you going to do? How do you put a monetary dollar amount penalty on it? What are you going to do? You think you're going to shut them down? Little Kootenai County, you're going to shut them down because they allowed your data to be breached? This data and the eventual control by the all-seeing eye cannot be tolerated, and we must not allow law enforcement to gaslight us, including those old fools, those retired Southern California fools who couldn't stand Southern California, those old fools that left California after they completed their law enforcement careers and they moved up to safe Kootenai County. Why? Why don't you stay down there? But yet you want to bring all that shit from down there back up here. Your big government law enforcement ways.
Well, and that's nothing more than tribalism and gang driven. I want to stay in the gang, so but you had better support the agenda.
Let's go to be in the gang. Let's go to that website, and we're going to wrap it up here. So you heard mention when I was talking about the 5 different controversies or pending litigation that Flock is dealing with. One lawsuit is by this company right here. So let's go ahead and I want you guys to see this. It's dflock. What is it? ME?
Yes.
.me. They have amassed a map. If you hit that, explore the map for me.
Okay.
If it'll work. Are we on?
It's just all kinds of what.
So what it'll do is it'll show you wherever you're at exactly where the cameras are. Now let's look at Kootenai County. You can kind of scroll around. You can see where the camera locations are. You can see Spokane area has over 62 of them. If you zoom in to, you need a mouse probably. I didn't even think about that.
No, I have. I'm not sure. Anyway, so I'm zooming in. I'm zoomed in. And what is it? Red dots? What is it we're looking for that's showing us?
Well, you'd have to use where those numbers are.
Okay.
So let's go back to the first page again. Good resource for you. A damn good resource. So are we on the main page? There we go. If you're concerned about where you're going to run into these cameras, and I say the more of us that are paying attention to how many are really out there, they're saying right now you're being tracked 35,631 reported ALPRs. Scott Hogue, that's running for mayor of Post Falls, remember, he's very proud of the fact that he brought these to Kootenai County to Post Falls back in 2006 because they didn't have enough cops on the street,
and then that's where
he applied for a Homeland Security grant, $100,000, and received the very first camera. So that was brought to you by the guy that wants to be mayor. Maybe some of you, if you're concerned about privacy, you should ask him, hey, are you still for this? And why? And
that's where our current sheriff then gets the number for, everybody needs to settle down. You're acting like this is some big new thing, but really these cameras have been, and this technology has been used for whatever this, it's 16, 18 years already in Kootenai County. And that really right there is what he's referencing. That was the starting point.
How much are you willing to give up? How much are you willing to give up in order for the government to protect you?
Well, I think people had some pretty big fear instilled in them today. And that is why this is a point of our discussion tonight. That is why this idea of surveillance applies. Because when you realize that striking fear, for those of us who just had to watch it in replay, imagine the students and the fear that was being struck into them from the events when you're present in that space.
Big Mike's schlong. Anyway, remember the Kootenai Records building getting bombed and then radio silence. Well, you shouldn't be doing that, Big Mike. We shouldn't allow you, if you want to out yourself as having done that, then.
Was that what he was doing?
I don't know.
Is that what he was doing? I think my take on that is, do you recall that happening? And it was a bunch of records from Kootenai County. The thing gets bombed, and then we heard nothing about it. That's going to be my take on that comment.
If you're going to hide behind a fake profile and run your mouth, I'm not taking your side.
No, we're not. We're just reading a comment. We're not saying that happened or didn't happen. I don't think he was saying he was responsible for it.
Don't know.
I don't think that was the point.
Don't know.
He's laughing. He's like, yes, not me. He's just referencing the incident and the
point.
Hey,
why don't you have some courage and actually post under your real name? I'm really sick and tired of these false profiles, by the way.
They're called, well, burner profiles is one, but when you research them in a political sense, they're sock puppet accounts. And when you have those who are trained political activists, especially eyes on the ones that have come from other larger counties and got in the trenches there and learned from the big dogs or came from the big leagues to the little leagues, and they're teaching of communist tactics, because when you're doing the right thing and you're behind the side of truth, you don't use a bunch of manipulation and hiding behind sock puppet social accounts to make it look like this is more of a grassroots effort. Or instead of me being one person with this opinion that's going to get eviscerated, I'm now 32 different people. And you start to then scare off whoever it is you're challenging, because one person comes up with an opinion on the side of, let's say, truth, and then you want to bowl them over. And now I'm just going to bolster my numbers by creating as many sock puppet accounts as I want. So Big Mike's got something to protect, but we're not. Yeah. I'm not saying he's doing that.
If I'm just going to say my general rule is if you don't have a real name behind you, then I don't take you serious.
Okay. He was thinking maybe a cover-up happened, but
don't care, especially when you're going to be a moronic name like that too. It's even worse.
Okay.
All right, we've beat this one up pretty good again this week. A little bit different show than we normally do, a little bit disjointed, but I think the principles still are the same. We do not compromise our liberty under any circumstance, which means horrible thing happened today. Man was murdered in front of the world. A father, a husband, gone needlessly. There is no excuse. Doesn't matter what your reason is. We don't tolerate that. There is no good reason. But I don't want you to be scared. I want you to be even more resolved to promote liberty, but you got to get off your asses and you have to actually go out and do something and not just talk on social media.
Because Dan said that, and I referenced this a little bit earlier on, some things that you can do. The events of today, and it wasn't just one, it was multiple different things. It invokes fear. I don't care how strong an individual you are, but especially for those of you who are more susceptible to that. Anyway, I have people before the events of 2020, they're like, I just don't watch any of it because then I'm just can be happy-go-lucky. Well, what's the balance? And some suggestions on the heels of today. Consider limiting your media intake. Dan and I talk about that. It can change the course of your day to stay off of it. So consider it. Create a daily routine if you don't already have one so that you're living in some sense of structure and you have normalcy in your life when it seems like the world is going to hell in a handbasket around you. Practice small exercise. Dan and I, again, we talk about this all the time. If you don't have that area of discipline in your life, you will be more greatly affected and susceptible as things in this world crumble around us. It just is the case. You have to, it's not the answer to everything, but you have to physically take care of yourself and be as independent or not dependent on medical drugs that, because you just didn't try and you let yourself get to that place. Reach out intentionally, connect with others, start showing up physically. That's what Dan's talking about. For those of you who say, why doesn't somebody do something, or great job, Dan, really now in retrospect, when we think about it, you should be the sheriff. We got it. Yeah, you should do that. Well, what in the world, what did you actually do over the last year when you have a guy who delegated and took a year off from his business, invested his own time and treasure? And what do we have left on the heels of that? The aftermath of that is what? Still people making fun. Ha ha, you lost by a landslide, go away. So get up and physically do something. It's not enough just to say, yeah, I'm glad you did that. I'm glad you did that. Some people do need to play a supportive role, but just think about it. Where can you actually get up physically? Start conversations locally. Don't be so afraid to go with your friends and go, this is just supposed to be lighthearted. We all need a break, which sometimes is true. But for some of your friends who are not, they are clueless to what's going on in our county. And I can't tell you, after a big presidential election and something like filling in a blank or filling in the box for the highest elected position in the county, it is embarrassing how many people had no idea who was even running.
Oh, we hear it all the time.
So if you at least know that, you might not be the expert, but if you at least know that, then start easy conversations with friends sometimes when you're going out for coffee. And then turning fear into action instead of sitting there crippling into a corner, volunteer somewhere. And get civically involved, which is what we're talking about. If you haven't at least done the bare minimum and shown up to a town hall or a county commissioner meeting, which some can be very long and boring because some people are not gifted speakers whatsoever, so it can be bad, but at least make an attempt, because it's probably 90% of us who never have. Like literally never have.
90% of us. Don't throw me in that group.
I'm saying collectively in our county. So anyway, refusing to design life around fear. You sit here and pretend, another one, you sit here and pretend you're a good Christian, but I'm going to get online and I'm going to eviscerate you and call you.
Like Keith Bowie.
Yeah.
Guttermouth Keith Bowie.
Well, and he's still talking about you today.
Well, that's why I don't get on and listen to any of his bullshit.
You'll have a better day when you don't. And then prioritize the relationships in your life. Those valuable ones are going to be few and far between. All those giant groups, the giant girls groups where you're going out and drinking wine, when you really think about that at the end of your life, what effect did that move the needle? Did that enrich your life? You know, maybe there needs to be less of that going on, less of the concerts, less of the ball games, and say, you know what? I care about these two people over here, and we've never had them over to our house. It's time to do that, because that's where conversations are going to occur, not in the constant large gatherings, parties. I'm going to entertain myself. Not that they're not all bad, but I'm just saying we get ourselves so busy in the entertainment and the large groups, and you can't, it is not physically possible to invest in somebody's life in any kind of remarkable way when the focus is large groups, parties, and whatever, because we want a giant cake, make each other feel good, and parties are fun. You know, you just can't. You can't. So that, to me, the way I operate is, if I just sat through a meeting or a Zoom meeting or any kind of meeting or a live stream, and I'm like, what's the practical application? What do I understand now that I didn't understand when we started? Where do we go from here? That's why I wanted to talk about that, because it's real life things, instead of balling up because today it was bad. And then the fear takes us next. I mean, to me, that was a real life demonstration of, okay, that this is what we're putting in front of you. And I'm using that in a general sense, not accusing anybody of anything. This is the test. So are you going to choose your dangerous liberty? Are you really going to do that? That's the end of my sermon.
Have a drink.
It's like somebody already said, is she gonna take a drink of whiskey or what?
Pray for me, everyone. Oh. Pray for me. Where's my my outro music, Mrs. Producer?
It's right here. Hey, I don't usually say so much. I usually don't say much at all. I play a supportive role.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
And I love the comments that I'm seeing coming in. So even as we roll out here tonight, again, this has been a special broadcast that came in lieu today out of necessity and respect and honor of the day that this has been. And so the things that we had planned to cover, we will be moving that to next week. That's what we have to look forward to. So we thank you to those of us who joined us today and understood the matters at hand and why it is important to discuss that today.
Have a good night, everyone. Stay strong, courageous.